Joe. Today, going on to the business blunder of the day, you have Bud Light may lose up to 18% of the shelf space thanks to the Dylan Mulvaney boycott, which has been a little over a year now, which ironically debuted on April 1st last year. Not as a joke. Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch, they had their brilliant, she's very proud, she's the first female marketing executive at Anheuser-Busch, Alyssa Heiderchild. She famously said she thought Bud Light was too fratty as a brand, and ironically, a picture of her drinking from a beer from a prophylactic in college, also known as a condom in college, went viral. And she said, we're going to make some changes. She certainly made changes. She was accurate in her goal. She achieved the goal. It was just in all the worst reasons. She paid Dylan Mulvaney $185,000 for Bud Light to subsequently lose $1.4 billion in sales. That's almost unfathomably bad. In my lifetime, I've never seen such a bad marketing campaign that didn't put a company out of business. That being said, their sales are relatively down 30%, so they're not going out of business. They have 40 plus beer brands that are global. They're huge. Anheuser-Busch InBev is a huge global company. The stocks basically recovered from the boycott. Sales have not, but she certainly achieved the business blunder of the century and is the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to covering their ineptitudes. Now, this is thanks to Ariel Zilber over at New York Post. And she says, quote, Bud Light may lose up to 18% of grocery store shelf space after Dylan Mulvaney boycott. Now, they noted that grocery stores that stock Bud Light are planning to shrink the shelf space allocated to the nation's formerly top-selling beer, nearly 20% in some parts of the country. Now, Chief Strategy of Columbia Distributing, Jesse Ferber, said, quote, Anheuser-Busch beers will lose a range of about 10-50% of their space nationwide as resets start. Now, that distributor does service some large names you've probably heard of before, such as Walmart and Target, or if you're a white gal, cliche, Target, which isn't a new thing. They've been saying that since the 60s. Fun fact, I read their book last year. It was fascinating about how they started the company and how they actually used to stand for family values. And some places going to say, let's see, Ferber also said that while the final numbers won't be known until May or June, he estimates that stores will be downgrade Bud Light shelf space by as much as 18%, others as low as 5%. And the antithesis is good news for the competition. They note that Molson Coors Brewing, whose stable brands includes Coors Light, Miller Lite, and Coors Banquet, expects to see a shelf increase space of 10%. You also have Brian Fierro, the president of U.S. sales of Molson Coors, telling Bloomberg that more than 50 retailers have increased shelf space for Coors Light and Miller Lite by 67% last summer and fall, which... Oh, this is hilarious. They actually have the Anheuser-Busch spokesperson told Bloomberg News that the company anticipates, quote, small shifts across brands, unquote. Yeah, the main brand that you destroyed, Bud Light. I mean, again, they have 40 plus beer brands in their portfolio. On average, Budweiser, that sales down, 12 to 13% compared to the year before prior to the controversy. Then you have Michelob Ultra down like 3 to 6%, with the remaining 40 plus brands relatively not affected. I think partially because most Americans don't realize how many beer brands are actually owned by the company. Now, let me see here. Looks like in terms of the fiscal reports, Anheuser-Busch most fiscal reports recently said that U.S. revenue declined 17.3% in the fourth quarter and 9.5% compared to the full year, or for the full year, which again is detrimental to say the least. And again, one of the instances with retail is you fight for years, sometimes decades, to get shelf space. I mean, you hear all the stories about entrepreneurs trying to break into Walmart, not physically, but actually, break in terms of metaphor for sales, get that first meeting, get your product on the shelf. It can take years of prospecting, and the negotiations are not easy. Once you get that shelf space out, it's a huge increase. It's life-changing. That's why people fight so hard to get in there. That's why they're willing to discount their prices so much to get into Walmart. And once you lose that shelf space, your sales are going to go down even more. Because, again, a big thing about retail, especially some things that are somewhat considered commodities, the convenience factor is huge. You see it, and the impulse buy is there. That's the reason why candy was first put at the checkout at grocery stores. Candy wasn't selling very well, so they said, well, why don't you just put it there? We'll treat it as an impulse buy, and it was brilliant. It worked. Now candy is at every checkout at every major retailer grocery store. It's because it's an impulse buy. It used to be a cheap price point, which made you think about it having less of an impact to you fiscally. And now they're losing their shelf space. Now, it'll be interesting to see, are they also going to lose, what kind of shelf space will this be? Will it be the cooled shelf space, or will it be the room temperature shelf space? Because again, there's also a huge increase in sales with beverages when it's actually cooled. That's why when it comes to gas stations, that's why the beers that are in the cold section, that's the ones that people are really going for, because it's ready to go, which ironically is at a gas station, which makes, it's a little kind of silly. I know people aren't necessarily drinking in the parking lot, but yeah, if you're on your way to the party or something like that, I understand. But again, they're going to be losing that shelf space. It could be the premium shelf space, which again, one of the most expensive spaces in a Walmart is the frozen food section and the refrigerated food section, partially because of the extra increase of electricity needed for it. And again, they're going to have less shelf space to work with. The other brands are getting bigger, and consumers are going to see those brands more on the shelf, easier to buy. It's right there. So this is quite literally the business blunder that keeps on giving. And again, maybe they didn't negotiate right with these grocery stores. Maybe they said, "Oh, just give us a couple more physical quarters, we'll get the sales back." But I think a lot of them are also realizing that's not going to happen anytime soon. But again, losing shelf space, in addition to all the other issues that are going on with Bud Light, that certainly has to be the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.